So for this video, I'm gonna kind of go over how you guys can build AI phone agents for your website. And this kind of piggyback off the previous video where I kind of showed you guys how to build AI assistants for your websites with no code using a software called Oai-Widget. This for this video, we're gonna actually add a new functionality where our AI agent is actually gonna call our leads, qualify them, and then book a meeting with them during the call. So I'm gonna kind of show you the functionality of that right now. Say something like type what type of AI agents do you sell? Oops. So, so it gives some type of agency sells, and then asks us to schedule a meeting. So let's say, yeah, I want to schedule a meeting. Yeah, I would love to schedule a meeting. Then it's going to ask us for name, email, phone number details so it can actually call us and use these details during the call. So we'll give it my name, email.com, and then let me get now put a phone number. This is a Google Voice phone number, so this won't be my actual phone number, but it'll still follow the call to my phone. So I'll get that. So what it's going to do is going to send a response, and in that response, after that response is sent, it'll call us. Okay, and then it's going to call us soon. So you can see it's calling us now. So let's answer this.
Hi, Alozi Igbokwe. My name is Robert, and I'm an AI virtual assistant at Bland.ai. We specialize in building and selling AI agents to companies. I have a few questions to better understand your business needs, which we will need to be recorded to better prepare for our meeting. Is that fine with you?
Yeah, that's fine with me.
Great, thanks for confirming. Let's get started. What business field are you in? What role do you have? And what services does your business provide?
So I'm in the marketing field. I'm a CEO. We provide Twitter marketing services.
Okay, great. Could you provide more details on your business operations and the specific Twitter marketing services you offer? For instance, do you focus on things like social media advertising, influencer marketing, or content creation and management?
So I focus on writing tweets for my clients to kind of grow their follower count.
I see. So you provide content creation and management services for your clients' Twitter accounts to help grow their follower base. That makes sense. What would you say is the biggest pain point you believe AI can solve for your Twitter marketing business?
I'm writing content or tweets at scale, pretty much.
Okay, that's really helpful to understand. It sounds like the biggest challenge for your Twitter marketing business is being able to generate content and tweets at scale efficiently. An AI agent could potentially help automate and streamline the content creation process, allowing you to produce more high-quality tweets for your clients in less time. Could you explain a bit more about the type of AI agent you would envision building to address this need?
Yeah, so an AI agent that's trained on my client's Twitter content so it can write a bunch of tweets in their style or tone.
That's a great idea to leverage an AI agent that can be trained on your client's existing Twitter content and tone to generate new tweets at scale. Could you provide a bit more detail on the specific capabilities or requirements you'd want this AI agent to have? For example, would you need it to integrate with any existing tools or platforms, or have any particular performance or data privacy needs?
No specific requirements, just trained on my client's data or tweets.
Okay, that makes sense. So it sounds like the main requirement would be for the AI agent to be trained on your client's existing Twitter content in order to generate new tweets that match their unique voice and style. That's a very common use case for AI in marketing. Let me ask about your budget for a project like this. What were you thinking in terms of investment?
About 6,000.
Our typical pricing for an AI agent that can generate content at scale and integrate with your client's Twitter accounts is usually around $8,000. Is $6,000 your maximum budget? Or do you have some flexibility to stretch to $8,000 if needed to ensure we can build the right solution to meet your requirements?
I can stretch to $8,000.
Great, that's very helpful. Let's go ahead and schedule a time to discuss the project details further. What date works best for you to have a meeting with our team?
July the 2nd.
Okay. Checking on the open slots we have on our calendar during that day. We have available slots at 1 o'clock p.m., 1:30 p.m., and 2 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time on July 2nd. Do any of those times work for you?
1:30 p.m. works for me.
Give us a moment. We are booking an appointment right now. Great. The meeting is scheduled for July 2nd at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Looking forward to discussing your project further then. Just to confirm, alozi2k@gmail.com is the correct email address on file, correct?
Yes.
Thank you for your time today, Alozi. I look forward to our meeting on July 2nd at 1:30 p.m. Eastern to discuss how we can build an AI agent to help scale your Twitter marketing efforts. Have a great rest of your day.
All right, you too, bye. The call ended. I'll show you guys the meeting is scheduled on our calendar and all the data from the call that actually pushed to Airtable. So let me go to our calendar and show you how our meetings were booked. So we see here we're at bookings. This is Cal.com. You see that we have a booking for Tuesday, July the 2nd, 1:30 p.m. and 2 p.m. like we said in the call. And then we go to our Google Calendar. And we go to the second date. This is not. And we go to July the 2nd. You can see that we have a meeting there for 1:30, a Lozy Barkley Discovery call. So we have that. And then we go to our Airtable. You can see that we have all the information discussed in the call in here. So if we expand on this, we have my name, the name. We have the email that they confirmed and that we sent through our AI assistant on the website. And we have all the questions. So it summarizes and gives the answer and a summary of all the all the answers we gave to the questions. And then it said if we qualified, pretty much if we could afford the budget or not. It gives the meeting time, and then it also adds the whole transcript to the Airtable. So it pretty much just saves a bunch. It just organizes all the data that we want inside our database. So this type of solution is kind of for people that kind of have like contact forms in their site, or they have a calendar like Calendarly, which they ask a bunch of qualified questions before you actually book the call. This is the type of I guess agent you can kind of have instead of having people write this through text and not being able to respond back or probably for more information if you need to. You can just have an AI collect information for you and actually store that somewhere instead. So that's where this type of solution can be worthwhile in. So I'm gonna go over how you can actually build these things now. The first step phone agents is using Bland.ai, which is a pretty popular software people use to create these AI phone agents. So let me go to Bland.ai. Let me log in. Okay, so what I usually can do now is I can go to phone numbers. And I can click buy a new phone number. So I already have a phone number. But if you want to use a phone number in Bland to kind of make and receive calls, you can come here and buy one of the phone numbers they have. You can change the area code and all that stuff too. I think right now they're only allowing California US country code. But you also have the ability to connect, get a phone number from Twilio, connect to the Bland. I won't go over that in this video, but I will go over that in a future video. But once you get your phone number, now you want to go and start testing your your phone agent. So you can go to send call. You can see here it asks you to set a bunch of parameters. So the first parameter we have our phone number, so you can put whatever phone number you want to call. This is for outbound, so we're calling the phone number, so you put whatever phone number you want to call on this. Then you can do send from. This is the phone number we're going to be calling from. And we have our prompts. I'll go over that in a little bit. And then we have what language you want, English. You can pick between a bunch of different voices for this. So right now they have like 7 different voices. And these are Bland, Bland clone voices. And they also have poke voice options, whichever that is. And then you have a temperature mode. This is how much you want your AI agent to be on or off script. So the more you increase this, the more creative your AI agent is going to be and more off script it can be. The more you decrease it, the more on script it will be and more accurate it'll try to be. Interruption threshold. This is how much you want your AI agent to interrupt. So if you don't want your AI agent to interrupt a lot because your client's answering long questions or giving long answers, you increase this. If you're fine with your AI erupting a good bit, then you can decrease it. But this will probably cause the AI to wait. The responses won't be as fast, so probably wait a little bit more. If you want your AI agent to have the ability to transfer calls to a human, you'll have this option. And if there's data that you want your client to remember, if you saw my demo of the phone agent, you see how as soon as it called me, it remembered my name because that's what I put in the AI assistant or my chatbot, so it could remember my name. So if this is where you put data that you want your AI agent to know beforehand, before the call, like the lead's name or the caller's name or whatever. If you want your AI phone agent to know how to pronounce some words, use pronunciation guide. Then there's voicemail action, voicemail messages, wait for greetings. So we have all this. We have how max duration the call can be. You have your webhook URL. This is what we use to push our call logs to Airtable. And we have request data. So actually, the request data is kind of like metadata, where if any additional information you want your AI to know, you put it in this request data. So let me put some of the stuff we have. So let me add my prompt and go over the prompt quick. So I have some saved prompts. Let's go over this prompt. So the basis I did for my prompt, or how I built my prompt, is I gave it some important instructions, like the main instructions it wants to follow, like make sure you don't interrupt or make sure you follow the call flow. Then I mentioned the main variables, so that's the variables I put in my request data. So the I guess the values I want the AI agent to know beforehand. So like emailing the caller's name, it knows those variables. And then this is a lead caller for bot. So this is a bot that's going to be asking my lead questions. So I put a call flow where what questions. First, I'll tell it how it should introduce itself. Now I'll tell it what questions to ask and how it should respond to those questions. And then at the end, we have it booking the call. So we have the tool booking functionality. So you see schedule a meeting using the booking meeting and check open slots. So this here, I'm just telling it how to call the tools it will need to book the meetings. So how to call the API endpoints it will call to book the meetings. So that's what I have here. And then at the end, I just have a script example. So example of how a call would go like for this using this prompt. So this is the logic I follow my prompt. I would say, since you're using Bland, I would say prompting this and making sure it doesn't hallucinate or make sure it follows the prompt exactly is very, very hard. And the more information you put in this prompt, the less accurate it gets sometimes. So this is probably too long of a prompt. You probably want to make it more condensed or concise. But yeah, beginning things, the prompt is very difficult. Using Bland, I would say just using this Bland thing. Bland has pathways and stuff that will help you make it more accurate. But Yeah, it's very hard to build this thing at production level and get a good prompt and get it very accurate at a large scale. And then, so I'm gonna put a phone number, and then you can send a call to it. Yeah, so I put my phone number in it. So I'm gonna just show you how you can test this thing by just simply clicking send call. It says call sent. And you hear it calling us.
Hi, what's caller's name? My name is Robert, and I'm an AI virtual assistant at Bland.ai. We specialize in building and selling AI agents to companies. I have a few questions to better understand your business needs, which we will need to be recorded.
So you can see it called us. You can see that it's showing the text on the screen. So that's just an example show how you can quickly build these things up. But there's some extra stuff that we're gonna do since we're gonna be using the webhook functionality. So it'll push our call log somewhere that we can kind of break down and store in the Airtable. And then we're also gonna add the tool functionality where we can actually open slots in our calendar and book meetings during our call. So we're gonna go over how we can add that functionality first. I'm gonna go over the webhook functionality first, though. So for our webhook, we're gonna go to Zapier, and we're just gonna create a new Zap. And what we do is we're gonna go to trigger and set the trigger as I guess as a catch hook. So what's gonna happen is that anytime our phone agent is finished with our conversation with our lead, or after it's finished calling our lead, it's gonna send a request to this hook, and Zapier is gonna catch that request and it's gonna trigger an automation. So if you go to trigger or you go to test, you can see the webhook right here, and you can see it says we're listening to it. So let's copy that webhook. Let's go back to Bland. Let's add that webhook there, and we can just click test that webhook. And let's see. And then we test trigger. And you can see that something's come in. So, and what's going to happen if I call? Let me call Bland. Let me call from Bland. Get a call.
Hi, this is Robert, an AI virtual assistant at Bland.ai. We specialize in building and selling AI agents to companies. I have a few questions to better understand.
And we don't have to go for the whole call. I just want to show you guys that we'll send a request to the webhook after every call. So if I end call, we'll close this. Go back to Zapier and say find new records. You see a new request came in, and so it has our call ID, call length, so it sends a bunch of details to our Zapier, and this will also have our call logs, our script of the call or conversation that the AI agent and the lead had. So you can see the transcript here. So what we'll do is we'll continue the select directory, and what will happen is that we're gonna send this call log to our Openapi, so it can pretty much break down the call log into a format that can be stored in our Airtable. So it's going to be separate. It's going to separate by questions. Remember, in our call, we're asking our lead a bunch of questions. So it's going to separate the questions and the answers to each column, and then it's going to add some extra columns. It's going to extract some extra deals from our call log and store that in Airtable. So first, we need OpenAI to kind of break that down for us and do that for us. So go to ChatGPT, and then we want it to generate a response. So just generate a simple response. You see this is logged in, so you'll need your API key to connect your Zapier and Zapier and ChatGPT account, or OpenAI account. And then we have this. So the user message will be our call log. So we're just saying it because OpenAI is just breaking down our call log. So the response or user message that we want to send is pretty much just our call log. So we're just gonna find our call log. Yeah, and that's our transcript text. We can make it GT4 for and then this is where we give her a prompt. So I'm gonna copy a prompt that I've already done before. Let me duplicate this. Let me go to my old Zap. And I'm gonna copy this. And you can see the instructions is pretty much we're just taking the transcript. We're telling the AI to separate it. So make sure you organize it. Organize in a way where each column will be question 1, question 2, question 3. Make sure the answer of each question is matched with that specific column. And then send it in a format that the Airtable will be able to read and post into Airtable. So I explain that a little more because we're going to use to push data into Airtable. We're going to use an API request. So see that as a good example of how it should do that. The format should send it in, and there's more examples. So just copy and paste this prompt. So we can just add that into instructions. And we don't really need to change any of this. You might need to increase the max number of tokens, but you don't really need to change any of this. And since we didn't really go over a call, we're not going to actually test this thing. But I'm just show you how to create this app. So you go to Airtable, and like I said, we're gonna send it through an API request. I'll say we're doing an API request because all these other ones, from my knowledge, they will only create one row, one column, or one record at a time. But we want to create multiple records at a time, or multiple, rows at a time. Or multiple columns at a time, since we're gonna be adding the answer to each question inside the Airtable after each call, plus some other data like when's the day of the meeting scheduled, did the lead qualify or not? When I say qualify or not, can the lead afford our budget or our cost of our services or not, based on their project requirements. So let's show you the Airtable real quick to see so you can see what I mean. You can see the name column, the email, and you can see question 1, and you can see the answers to these questions. So if I expand it, you can see question 1, question 2, question 3, question 4, qualify, meeting time, and the whole call log. So we want that. We want Zapier to send all of that in one request. So we're using Airtable API request for that, and that's why we're having it make sure we format it correctly so it can be sent in a format that the API can take. So how we would do that is we'll click API request. Oops. API request, continue, login. And it's the same thing. We're giving it the API token so the Zapier can connect to Airtable. So I'm going to show you, since I don't have the complete details of it, I'm going to show you how it's set up in our already completed Zapier. So edit. So you have a post request. We have the URL that we need to send it to Airtable, which is this is our base ID that makes sure it knows what exact table we want to update the information in. We have to tell that that we're sending this in JSON format. If we don't tell it we're sending it in JSON format, then it won't work because it won't understand what format we're sending it. So we need to tell it to make sure in the headers we need to tell it we're sending it in JSON format. And then as a body, we just take the reply that ChatGPT gives us pretty much. And then it will successfully post all of that into Airtable. So that's kind of how our web functionality works and how we're putting all information and storing that inside Airtable. And I'll go over more Airtable. I won't go over it too much in this video, but I'll have a separate videos where I go over tools like this, like how to use Airtable and the full, like a full pretty much demo and a full tutorial of how to set up Airtable and how to leverage it for your AI tools. So now we've gone over webhook. The next thing we're going to go over is pretty much our tools, our function call capability that will allow our phone agent to book meetings during our call. So to create tools, we go to the playground. Then we go to tools. We can give it a name like, since the first tool we're going to do is the one that's going to check the availability in our calendar, we can call it check open slots, check open, or say open times. Then this is just a description you're going to give the tool, so we'll say check availability on my calendar. Speech is pretty much what the AI is going to say before it actually calls the tool. So if I'm booking a meeting for you during call, the AI's going to tell the clients like, okay, I'm booking a meeting. Wait a moment. So it's going to take a while. We want to tell the lead or tell who's ever on the phone to wait a bit, or you want to say something before you call the tool. So we'll say, give us a moment. We are checking open slots during that day. So now this is where we go to the API endpoint part. So let's go to Cal to show you what Cal is. Cal.com. Log in. Go to app. So Cal is pretty much, it's like Calendly, where it's pretty much where you can book appointments. You have a calendar, so you can host your own calendar, which you can book appointments in and schedule stuff in. So it's like Calendly or Google Calendar. So not too much to go into that, but to show you, this is our calendar. And what Cal does, it makes sure unlike Google, Google Calendar, it allows you to kind of create open slots. So let me say if I'm a business owner and I'm only going to be free at 3 to 5 on Mondays, it allows you to pick that time and make sure none other times are open during that slot. And it also makes sure that when somebody schedules a meeting and you try to schedule a meeting, another meeting at that time, it makes sure there's no double booking. So it allows you to do that all through their API, with something that's not something Calendly or Google Calendar really allows you to do. So that's why we're kind of using Cal for this. And let's go back to the Cal docs to see how we can check the open availability in our calendar. So if you go here, we see we have this get user or team event type slot. So this is what allows us to get all bookable slots in our calendar pretty much. And you see that it has the API endpoint that you have to call, and it has the parameters that it wants you to send to the API endpoint. So we have the API key, the start time, end time. So the one with the red stars are the one that are kind of required for us to use. So these are the main type parameters you want to pass through. So let's take this endpoint first. And for this, what I'm gonna use another software called FastGen. I'm using this software to create the endpoints to actually book the meetings, because if I can honestly just call the Cal endpoint, but I'll show you there's an issue when I try to test it in Bland. So I'll show you guys. I'll go to FastGen first, but let me go to Bland and show you what I mean. So if I try to call this endpoint in Bland, inspect. So if I test this, you can see I get a CoRS error and a phone error. So pretty much it's blocking me from Bland, or Cal is blocking me from testing their endpoint from Bland. So I want to use a third party software to actually hit the endpoints instead, so I can actually test it before actually using it in Bland. Also, I think you just have more control over how you can call these API endpoints if you use Fashion. Like for example, if I want to have um, one endpoint be able to do two different things, it can call one endpoint to get the available times, and then call another endpoint from Cal to book a meeting. If I just want to do that all in one endpoint, I can use Fashion. So it gives you more flexibility, anyways. So I'm gonna use Fashion to create the tools and endpoints needed to book the meetings and check available times. So go to Fashion, log into Fashion, log into Google. Okay, let's go to APIs because we're going to create API endpoint. I'm going to create add route. We're going to click create since we want to make this a post request. Give it a name. Check open slots. You can give it a path. We can say slots v1. Okay. Qualification. We can turn it off. We don't really need it. We can have allow users, so we can turn it on. And validation rules. If you want to add validation rules, where this is what allows you to make sure that when you're sending a request to this endpoint, you're sending all the needed parameters and no extra parameters, and you're sending all the needed parameters that you need to send for the request. So I mean, it's not really needed, but if you want to make sure that your request is not going through, the parameters you're passing to it is wrong or not correct, you can add this, and you understand what I mean more as we talk about how API needs certain parameters to pass to actually do what we want it to do. So now we're going to do add HTTP requests, and this is where we're going to first add the endpoint or URL that we need. Then we're going to go back. Then we're going to go back here, go back to documentation, and you guys want to go to documentation. All you have to do is type in cloud.com docs and just go to API reference, and then just go to API reference, and you'll eventually find the endpoints that you need. You see how it says booking, slots. So I'll have for each of this, I'll have that needed endpoints actually interact with these or do these certain actions. So pretty much here we have all the parameters we need. So this is what we're gonna put in the endpoint or put in our JSON object, so it so it knows the values that it needs to pass to actually do the certain action you want. So the first thing is the API key. So the first thing we're gonna add to our Fashion endpoint is the dynamic values. So these are the values that the user is gonna pass in. They're gonna be changing completely. So since we're checking the availability in our calendar, the dynamic variables are gonna be changing. There's gonna be stuff like start time and end time, because the dates of what we're looking at, or the times what we're looking at to see what's available, are going to be changing. So those are going to be our dynamic variables. So we're going to go here. And for actually we do API HTTP requests, we're going to do add variables. And we're going to do start time, turn that to a string. So like I said, for the dynamic variables, these are the variables that we're going to pass to our fastgen endpoint. And so for us to use those variables for later, which we're going to use later to actually hit the actual cal endpoint that you want to hit, we need to take those variables from the first request that was sent to our fastgen endpoint. So text, you'll see what I mean as I do this. Start time equals body dot start time. Okay, and now this is where we go to the actual request. So this is when we're gonna send the actual request to cal endpoint so it can get the available times. So let's give it action name. Let's see, open slots API. Okay, and then let's go back to the parameters it wants us to pass. So it wants us to pass all these parameters, and these will be, you see how it says query? Since this is a GET request, these are going to be query parameters. So what we're going to do is that we're going to pass them in here. We have to pass them here. So I'm going to get an example that I've already have done and copy and paste from here. So you can see here I already have an example. So you see here we just have a question mark, then we have API key equals this, at event ID equals this, at time equals var.start time. So we're pulling the variable that we set before. So if it's a GET request, you need to have those as query parameters. So, oops. API. That's so annoying. Okay, copy. Oops. Let me just copy all that. Okay, and then I want to show you guys how you can get the API key from cal and how you can get the event ID. Event ID is going to be the calendar that you want to check. So I'll show you guys how you do that. You can go to cal.com. So again, so we have multiple calendars. We have calendars where we have 15-minute long meetings. We have calendars where we have 30-minute long meetings, and we have different calendars. So to get the exact ID for your calendars, you can click on the calendar, and then you can't see it now, but I'm gonna paste this in the Google Docs. In the URL, you'll have a number in it, and that'll be your event ID. So I'll paste this in the Google Docs and show you guys. Paste the URL here, so you can see this number right here. So this will be the event ID, and that will tell the API which calendar you want to look at. So if you're booking a meeting and you want to check available slots, it'll know, oh, it wants to book meetings or check available slots for the 15-minute calendar. Okay. And then for the API key, you will go here, down here, you can go to settings. You can go to API keys, and then you can just create one here. So that's how you can get the API keys from cal. So going back to our fastgen, we pretty much have all this set up. Select APIs. And then what we want to do here is we want to make sure that it sends a value to. So it sends whatever value that this API endpoint sends back. It sends that value to the back to the user, or back to the I guess the application or whatever the AI agent that's making the request. So for example, if you go to the documentation, you can see that the response it sends is supposed to send something like this, and that's how the phone agent is going to look at it and know, oh, these are available times. So we need to configure our FastGen to be able to show that value or send that value back to the user or AI agent that's making the request to the endpoint. So we'll do that. Click on here, do response, add success response. Go here, and I'm just going to copy what I have here before and explain it. So what it's pretty much doing, let me get a name to success. So what it's doing here is pretty much you always put action. Anytime you want to get a pull of value from the response, we always add action, and then we add check open slots for this. It will be called let's see, it'll call slots API. So we're trying to get a response from this HPT request. So we have to state which block we're trying to get the response from. Since it's going to be this HPT request, and that's the name is slots API, we're going to change this to slots API. Let me lowercase this thing easier. Slots API. Okay. Slot API. Body is gonna have bodies where all the values that is in the response is returned in. So I'll show you what I mean by that, but that's where gonna be all the variables are. And then slots, if you go back to documentation, you can see that the times are on this slot bracket. So we add slot there because that's where we're gonna be pulling out the values. So we have, pretty much have all this configured. And all we have to do is click deploy live. And then we can go here, copy the full endpoint here, and test this thing out. Copy, paste. And then, like I said, if we go back to FastGen, you can see that our API key and our event type ID is going to be hard coded. Those values aren't going to change. But like I said, the start and end time are going to be dynamic. Are going to change based on what date the user is questing at. So those are the values that we're going to be passing to this endpoint, so it can get those values and then send those values with the Cal endpoint request, or send those values with the request to send to the Cal endpoint. So let's get the dates you want to add this date, and then I'll add this date. And you see that it has to be in a certain format. So this is the 24-hour format. So this is 9 o'clock a.m. and then this should be 5 o'clock p.m. So it's in 24-hour format. And then this is the year, the month, and then the day in the month, pretty much. And then I can do start. Sorry, let's make a post. Test it. There's I forgot to mention one thing. We need to make it a pluglet route so it doesn't ask for any authentication. I'm going to play again. And then we're going to test this thing out. Another thing to do is change this thing to time. You see here we can change it to what value is. Is it a string? Is it daytime? Make sure these things are set to time. And let's test this thing again. And you can see that it gave a bunch of open slots during that time frame. And then we can, what we do, we'll save this tool since we'll need it for later. And then we'll create the tool that's going to actually book the meetings for us. We call it book AI meetings. Description, this is books. So books, this is what books means in our calendar. And then this will be another post request. And then let's go to FastJet and actually create this endpoint. And first, let's go to cal.com. And this is the booking endpoint. And these are the parameters that it wants us to pass. So we don't really need to pass all these parameters. The main parameters that are required are time zone, language, metadata response, start, event ID. But yeah. So let's copy and paste that. And you see here it says API query. When you ever see query, that means just like we did for the get endpoint, that we have to add a question mark and then the actual API key value. So you'll see what I mean by that when I create the endpoints. Let's edit. Let's edit one of my routes. Okay. Name it AI Booker. Booker. It's gonna be points endpoint. Let's create the HTTP request. Is that our HTTP endpoint? Booker API. Booker API. Then the variables that are going to be changing, if we go back to our documentation, it's going to be similar. It's going to be the start time pretty much. The start time. Let's see what else. And let me check my previous one. I think we're going to have to send some other endpoints to it. So, and then it's the response. So in the response endpoint, if I go back to the documentation, what it means, we're gonna have to send these certain variables. So the name variable and the email variable are required. And if I go back to my calendars, show you, I go to my 15-minute calendar. And then it should tell you, we go to, let's see, the settings. You can see here, that the name value and email address value are required. So when you're booking a meeting, these values are required. So some of these values you would need to be passed. So if you made some of these values required, then these values would need to be passed in the request for you to be able to book a meeting. And you'll pass these values in the response bracket, pretty much. So pretty much, I'm just gonna copy this. Mostly copy this and again, this is a post request. So since this is a post request, you're going to be sending it as a JSON object in here instead of sending it as a query where you have a bunch of question marks in your endpoint, like I did for the GET request. So add that, and then like it showed in the documentation, the only query you have to add is going to be the API key. So I'm gonna get that from there too. And then we see that we have multiple dynamic variables we want to pass. We want to pass the dynamic meeting time, dynamic name, and dynamic email and title. So those are gonna be the dynamic variables we want to pass. Now regarding the title, I don't think we are gonna pass as a dynamic. Well, yeah, I don't think we have to pass as a dynamic variable because if you go to settings, you see here that it actually defines the title here. So it says you can add a dynamic value here. You can say dynamic value can be the scheduler, so the full name of the person that's booking the meeting. So whoever you're booking the whichever lead is booking the meeting would be the scheduler. So this is where you kind of define the title. You won't really define the title in the API endpoint, but so I mean I don't really you don't have to really this doesn't really matter. You can say I can just add discovery call. And then, so the main dynamic files you're going to be passing, or you're going to be the meeting time, name, and email. So we're going to add those. Email. And we'll give it name, variables, booking, and make sure that aligns with what we have. Oh, it's meeting time, so let's change this to meeting time. Oh no, yeah, let's change this to meeting time. Now let's change this to meeting time. So we have the variables, we have all this. Now we just want to add, again, we want to add what values we're going to subtract from the actual response. So add response, and I go back to our previous endpoints and go to book meeting. I can just grab this. And what we can also do, I'm not going to show you here, but what you can also do, you can add an if condition. So the thing is, it won't it won't just respond to error if you're successfully if you there's just an error in the code or error in the way you construct the API endpoint. If there's like let's say the user or the client tries to book a meeting in the past, or a user or client tries to double book, so there's already a time in the there was already somebody that took that booking meeting or took that time took that time. It's going to send an error response, and this is where you want to capture that error response and send it back to the AI phone agent, so it knows that hey, this time is already booked, or this time is in the past. So this is where you add the error endpoint. Usually, it doesn't really matter too much unless you want to the AI to react a certain way to a certain error. So if you want to add an error to this, you can do an if statement, and then based on based on if it's a failure or it's a success, based on if it's pretty much if the status equals 200, or if it equals 200 equals 400, it will go to one of these. So Add that body status. Success. Let me add success. And now we can send the values you want to send is going to be, again, name, email, meeting time. So let's go here. Bland.ai. We'll have time that we want to book. So we can say 9 o'clock and we can do 2:23. And then we can do, okay. And then we want to deploy this thing first. Then we want to copy this API endpoint. So let me test this. And you can see that it says response accepted. So that means that our meeting was successfully booked. And we can even go to Cal. You can see the date we have, 7:02. We can go to Cal, load, and we can see the meeting there. And we can see the time, 12 o'clock, 12:30. So now, after all that, if you want to now, you want to now kind of add the tools into the, I guess, the Bland request. So you want to combine them together so the Bland request can actually access the tools. So how I would usually do that is we can go to Bland, we go to send call. We just need to copy these parameters. We can copy these parameters. I can paste these parameters. I already have these parameters pasted, but I'll paste these again. These basic parameters. This just makes it easy to edit. So what you want to do is you want to add the tools inside here. So we have a tool section. And what you usually do is, if you go to tools, you go back to the tools, go to playground, you go to tools, you go to show my tools, we'll click one of our tools. We can just click Python, doesn't really matter. And you see that it'll have code here. So what you can do is actually just copy everything from the bracket to the last bracket, and you can just add that to tools. And so this has all the values that we wrote down before. And we can also just add a comma. So we can add our second tool. Now we have both of our tools in here. And then there's one other thing that we want to add. So if we go to actually the Bland docs real quick, Bland.ai docs. Bland.ai docs. You go to custom tools, you scroll down, you can see something called response that's added here. And like I said before, you see like we did in FastGen, where we want to pull the actual data or value that the API returns. So to do that, we have to cite that, we have to pass that variable into we have to pass that value into a variable and pull it from the API response. So you see here, you see that it explains what request data does. It extracts the data from the response that we want the AI to use. So, and if you go back to our FastGen, you can see that the variable that the variable that has the values that we want to get is just called response. So what we'll do is just we add request data, we add response in here. We can just say successfully booked. I mean, we can use the same value right here and just name that response. And we can copy paste. Copy paste and do the same thing here pretty much. And now what I want to do with this, what I usually want to do with this is that I will just copy it and I'll go to FastGen. Go to APIs. I won't rebuild it this time. I'll just show you what I usually do. I go to our HTTP request, and I just copy and paste this whole thing in here pretty much. And when I copy and paste it in here because as you see later is that having the static values inside FastGen just puts less workload on the AI. When the AI tries to call this function or this tool, it doesn't have to look through all the values and pass all the values and create a request that has all these values. It can just get the dynamic values that we need and pass that and send it to the request. So I'll show that you'll see more of that later. But once we just add everything, all we have to do is copy and paste everything into here. Then you're gonna have to put your Bland API key. And if you go back to send call in Bland, or I'll show you how you get your API keys. You go to right here, you go to your name down here, your account down here, go to API keys, go to API key, and then you can replace key or copy key here. So you can copy the key there. And then you'll add this into the header. So you wouldn't do it. You won't do this here. This is not needed. You would add this into your header, and you create authorization header. So you type in authorization, and you copy and paste this into your header. Then you just paste all the variables you need. And then the dynamic variables you're usually going to need is the phone number that you want to call. And then the caller's name and email. This is the request data. So this is the data that we want the AI to remember beforehand. So these are the dynamic variables that we'll usually pass. So knowing those dynamic variables, we want to create. We're gonna create a schema for this. So, and just to tell you, to get the I guess the response that we want to get, we're gonna extract the value from the message value pretty much. So this will just send the AI that the call has been successfully the Bland is successfully going to call the client pretty much. So just telling the AI that if it was successful or not. So what we're going to do is first go to Oai-Widget. Oai-Widget. That's one. Home, our dashboard. Okay, we're gonna go into one of our assistants. It doesn't matter. We can go into any one of our assistants, or we can just create a new assistant. Use whatever API we want. And remember, I went over Oai-Widget in my previous video. I have that video down in the description too if you want to rewatch that video, but I've gone over how to kind of use this software in my previous video. So we'll give it whatever name, phone agent v2, and then we're gonna go down here, and this is where we create the action. Where we allow our AI agent or AI assistant to actually call the phone agent. So we're going agent. So what we need to do is create a schema. As I mentioned before, the only variables that we really need to pass is the caller name, the name, the email, and the phone number. So what we'll do is we'll go back to our FastGen. We'll copy the full URL. Then we go to ChatGPT. GPT. So once we get this URL and we're in ChatGPT, what we'll do is we'll ask ChatGPT to create a schema. So we'll say, can you create a API schema with this URL? Make sure it's in Open API 3.0 schema format, and it's in JSON format. Format the parameters we want to pass. We want to pass is phone number. Let me go back to the parameters just to confirm. So phone number, caller name, and email. So it is phone number, caller name, and email. Okay. Let's click enter. Again, schema is just telling the AI what parameters to pass when calling the tool request. That's all this parameter is doing. That's why we really only need to cite the parameters in the schema. Yep. Okay. And make sure it has the URL. Okay. Copy, paste. Copy and paste that. We can go to description and call it API for phone agent, FastGen. Yeah, we give it a loose API title, doesn't matter. Apply, update, description, phone agent. Once given name, email, phone number, use the Alozi API to call the user. You can save that. So let me test it out. Let's say call me now. Name is Alozi. Email is alozi@gmail.com, and phone number is +170. So let's click enter. It's gonna send a response. We'll wait for the response, and after the response, it'll call me. See that it's calling me now. I answer it.
Hi, Alozi. My name is Robert, and I'm an AI virtual assistant at Airtable. We specialize in building and selling AI agents to companies. I have a few questions to better understand your business needs, which we will need to be recorded to better prepare for our meeting.
Yeah, I ended the call since we already went over a demo at the beginning of the video. So that's pretty much it. That's how you can build these things. I'll probably go have a video where I do a deeper dive in Bland, but for now we're good. So adios.